welcome to Mr. Greenslade. We can call you Russell, yes?
Yeah, of course, no problem.
Good, good. Thanks for coming. And David Hopkins. Not quite sure who else is actually attending this morning. I can see Councillor David Hopkins.
Yeah. Councillor Robert Francis Davis.
And Robert Francis Davis. Okay, right.
And Jeff Bacon as officer.
Jeff Bacon, yes, quite right. Yeah, thanks for coming anyway. Right. Any apologies for absence? I could see. I thought David Helliwell, Councillor David Helliwell, wasn't coming, but I can see he's actually here. Any apologies, Emily?
We have received apologies from Councillor Peter Black today.
Okay, thanks for that. Right, item 3, disclosure of personal and prejudicial interests. Any? No, okay.
Could I just come in here? I did have an interest. If we are ever going to discuss the Langland site, then I did declare a personal prejudicial interest that I had a member of the family to put a bid in, so I took no part in it. I just want to put that on the record, to be honest.
Okay, thanks for that. Okay, no other interests, right? Right, next item, prohibition of whip votes and declaration of party whips. No, none. Right, if we move on to the next item, the minutes of the previous meeting. I'm sure everybody is actually seeing that due to, I think, the fault in the system, when the papers came out, first of all, there were no minutes actually sent, and Emily had just sent out a revised pack. Sorry it's so late in the day. Right, anyway, if we approve the minutes, there's pages 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. The minutes are to do with the 2nd of November, Tuesday, 2nd November. Everybody approve them?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, thanks for that.
Yeah.
Right, any public questions, Emily?
No public questions today, Chair, no.
Okay, thanks for that. Right, if we move on to the next item then, the Swansea Business Improvement District bid. As we have actually spoken briefly to Mr. Russell Greenslade, who's the Chief Executive of BID. Thanks very much for the information that you actually sent through, Russell. I hope everybody's read them. Do you actually want to comment on that? I don't expect you to go through, you know, the whole pack of slides and so on, but do you actually want to add anything actually there, or should we go, you know, to questions?
No, I trust that it gives a good overview of what Swansea bid does here. I think Swansea has done very well to be the first bid in Wales, as well as one of the first in the UK. And I think we should all be very proud as Team Swansea that we actually operate in the top 20% of bids in the UK. So to put that in perspective, that's 320 bids and £136 million turnover and 87,000 businesses. So, and the local authority, a very big part of that, and very big part of the bid and a key strategic partner. So I just wanted to make that, yourselves aware of that. So Swansea doing very well. Excuse me, very well on that stage.
Okay, thanks for that. Right, does anybody actually want to raise any questions to Russell? Right, I can see nobody indicating really, but I've written a few actually points down here. You know, you actually said that you're in the top 20 bids and so on. How is that actually measured? You know, is there some sort of national system where they appraise, you know, the bids and so on? How do you identify that, you know, you've performed to a certain level? You know, do you send information in to somebody, or how is that actually calculated?
It's done by an independent body called British Bids, which is made up of stakeholders, businesses. So that can be made up of national PLCs, auditors. We provide performance information on a matrix of information of what we've done, how we've done it, how we performed as well. And then they assess it and they come back to us to say if we are accredited or not. until recently, we were the only bid in Wales to be accredited that standard as well. But we also, in addition to that, we now also landed, or we secured, I should say, the Bids Foundation Industry Standards, which is another kite mark, if you want to call it that, Councillor Jones, as well. So we've always been the ones which have been pioneering that because of the performance management side of it as well, which is important because we need to show levy payers and stakeholders what we do, how we do it as well. So it's independently audited, in answer to your question, Councillor Jones, by a national body which does it around the UK.
Okay, thanks for that. Right, Councillor Chris Hawley.
Thank you, Chair. Russell, it's nice to see you this morning. A couple of things. One, when was the last time there was a vote? I think it was a couple of years ago, is it not?
Sorry, yeah. Cool. Yeah, the last ballot was in the 25th of June this year, which is a country record-breaking 4th term. So it's another 5 years until the 31st of July 2026.
And obviously you've had the same level of support right throughout. Can I ask, how many, are there any businesses that now don't contribute, or is there any businesses that have contributed in the past that are no longer there? Well, I'm not talking about the likes of Debenhams, the shops that have closed. I'm on about the business that's still there. How often are the steering group meetings for bids?
Certainly, well, all businesses are still contributing, and organisations, of which there's roughly circa 813 in our bid area. And as I said in the presentation, that's 1% of the rateable value, which is set of the business rate list. It's tied in with that side of it. We meet monthly as a board, and we have obviously different subgroups. For instance, my colleagues are out now going around the independent businesses as part of our subgroup in Lower Oxford Street, Nelson Street and Plymouth Street, informing, guidance, information and gathering intelligence, which we share with your officers and other partners as well.
Okay, thank you, Russell.
You're welcome.
Okay, Councillor Wendy Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I was looking at the report, and under thoughts, I think there's a heading thoughts. I think you say that there have been 30 new businesses in the last 18 months in the city centre and creating a number of new jobs. Can you just describe what kind of businesses we're talking about? Are we talking about shops or restaurants or whatever? And any idea on the numbers of new jobs? You know, are they large numbers or probably fairly small numbers, I would think? Thanks very much.
No problem. Majority of those that opened up were actually independent shops as well. So obviously the smaller size of the independent means you're right, Councillor Fitzgerald, they are smaller in numbers. They're not the Sonys or the Debenhams and stuff, but they're growing. And I think we've seen a massive uptake in businesses coming out and building from a sole trader at home or a garage into a shop as well. So it's quite refreshing to see, and a massive insurgence in the vintage clothing and stuff like that. And that goes back to the student market, which we have, which is quite very strong here in the city centre, which goes back to the green credentials as well. And that demographic, which we work very closely with both unis, it's very high on their agenda to be ethically buy-in from those type of areas. Hospitality businesses as well, FMCG businesses, your coffee shops, restaurants have also been sprouting up as well. A new Italian coffee shop, for instance, in Picton Arcade. There's been numerous different pop-up shops that have come along as well. So it's mostly independent traders as well. And we've had nationals opening up, such as your Taco Bells coming in as well. And I think there's a place for the nationals to come in at the same time as well as the independents, because they work together on it. They drive the foot float, which we all know is the lifeblood of any business.
Thank you. Interesting.
Well,
okay, thanks for that. Councillor Terry Hennigan.
Yeah, when you talk about business performance, I was wondering if this independent organisation, do they rate you under the best value perspective, like from 1 star to 5 star? And if so, what kind of star rating did you get?
It's a matrix of, have you got this in place? Have you got that in place? Since our accounts are done by FCA accounting, since I've got that minutes of the meeting, the transparency, the board meetings and everything, which is all online and stuff like that. So it's scored on maybe 25 categories which you need in place even before they consider you. And even then, they still say you need to do more. So it's constantly progressing, Councillor Hennigan. It's never stand still with it.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, Councillor Mike White.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Thanks, Russell. It's just mainly the bid is mainly obviously within the city centre with the business. Is there any interest or possibilities to extend or to actually develop in the outer shopping areas of the city? Are there any of these businesses entitled to perhaps get involved with the scheme?
As you rightly said, Councillor White, we're already in the city centre, city centre bid then really. But if you look at areas like Bristol, you've got a city centre bid, then you've got a Temple bid, you've got a Broadmead bid. So there's other bids that can, but they have to be independently elected, like we are, by the stakeholders. It's not done in Bristol. It may be food for thought for Swansea, is that they combine their resources, which makes it even leaner and a better return on investment for everybody who pays the bid levy. For instance, the governance would be the same, the electoral system would be the same, the business rate would be the same because it's in Swansea. But we have been approached previously from other areas, such as your Mumbles, for instance, to find out more information about bids, but then the world changed. And we had to go through our own ballot for it as well. But there's certainly scope there, but the appetite has to come from the people that are paying the bid levy in those areas rather than anything else. And then you'll have to go and see how much money you can get in and what you would like to spend it on, really. So it can be done, yes, but there is a process to it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, right, thanks for that. Councillor Steve Gallagher.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Morning, Russell.
Morning,
It's a
Steve.
very positive, PowerPoint presentation that you've put in, especially, I'm looking at you were page 5, I believe, and there's a lot of capital investment going on in the city centre, which we're all pleased to see, and your businesses must be pleased. However, can I ask you, from your contacts, are there any negative thoughts coming through that either yourselves with support from us as an authority or indeed this panel can address and support you with?
I think one thing was, we've always been known Swansea as the place of artists' impressions. It's not that anymore. I think one thing was just get the cranes in the sky, and the pace which has happened. And I'm in the city centre now. This is the Oceana site here, and you've got the biophilic building next to me. And I've been in all the way through the pandemic, and the arena was going up at pace. It was unbelievable to see. We're never going to please everybody, and we all know that, so we're very realistic about it. But there is an upbeat positivity here in the city centre at the moment. With our network of bids, we're often asked, for instance, which we share with the officers in the local authority and councils as well, about the interest that we have here. What we constantly battling against is the negativity from people who don't even work or have businesses in the city centre. And so we're constantly working with a whole host of different partners to bat that away, because that doesn't help when you're talking to people who are looking to invest from other areas, or even businesses, and stuff like that. So we're constantly on the front foot with that and putting out those positive messages. And we've got to be upbeat and we've got to be positive about it, because these are hugely exciting times. It's fantastic to see what's going on. There's a lot of mud outside at the moment, but we'll get by with that. That's the way. We don't mind that at the moment.
Thank you, Russell.
You're welcome, Steve.
Okay, Wendy, I can see your hand is still up. I assume it's just still up, yes?
Sorry, Jeff. Yes, it is.
Okay, all right. That's okay. Councillor Phil Downey.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I haven't got a question as such, just a comment. that I wouldn't say how many years ago, but I met Russell when I was chairing Cabinet Advisory Committee when we actually kicked off Wine Street.
Yeah.
And I got to be honest that the information that came forward from BID was very, very valuable to the committee, as we didn't have to go down to speak to businesses individually, because BID had their complete views in one place, so it made it much easier. The only thing is, due to the pandemic and everything, it has taken a couple of years for this to come to fruition. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thanks for that. Right, Councillor Peter Jones.
Yes, thank you, Chair, and thank you, Mr. Greenslade, for your presentation. You've obviously taken a pretty optimistic view about the future of Swansea city centre and business development, and obviously from many points of view that's to be welcomed. But of course, city centres or town centres around the UK, many are suffering as a consequence of a multitude of factors that I think we're all familiar with. But you're very confident. What is the basis for your confidence going forward, not just the next 2 years, but perhaps the next decade or so? And do you see any major negatives on the horizon? Thank you.
I think my positive and confidence in my city and the city centre, when I say my Swansea citizen resident, is that, you know, I'm lucky enough I sit on national bid boards, so I see what's going on in the towns and cities around the UK, and Swansea is doing stuff really well, and the eyes are on us. So it's informed positivity, I think, is the answer to your question, Councillor Jones, really, because there's so much going on here. I think it's got the most regeneration going on outside a major city that it has done for years. You know, when you get the likes of London West End bid, which, to put that in context for the board here, is Regent Street, Oxford Street and Bond Street, saying, wow, what's going on here, then we're on the radar. You know, you know, there's some big players up there as well that are looking what's going on here in Swansea. And I think that will continue, because once everything's been built and done, I think that confidence will come back. And what we've done in the city centre, it's not all about retail. Retail's changed, as we know. You know, there's an online shopping is here to stay. So we're working hard as a bid. How can we embrace that? Working with online retailers such as I put in the presentation, the final mile delivery, and adding something else to it, or a bike hub for commuters to use and stuff like that, rather than transportation links or parking and stuff like that. So it's informed optimism that comes from, really. And also the living here, the more people living here, the more people working here as well. Because city centres and town centres are changing, as you rightly said, Councillor Jones, and we're very aware of that as businesses, which is why we've adapted, and we will adapt. And it's really good to see what's coming here, planning, and more people living here as well, to have more vibrant economy after 5 o'clock, because currently our city centre sort of dies down after that time and then picks back up again into the evening nighttime economy. So it'd be great to join that twilight time together, which again will improve the economy and vibrancy of the area, driving footflow and creating jobs.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for that. Councillor Susan Jones.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Russell. I agree with you about the negativity of coming into Swansea, and that is an area of concern. You've talked about 30 new businesses. Could we have a list of 30 businesses and what they actually provide in the city to try and promote a little bit more? Because all you hear is that there's not a point going to Swansea. There's nothing there other than charity shops.
Yeah, we have promoted them as well. We've done press releases with your communications team of who they are and what they do. We've got a brand called the Big Heart of Swansea and the True Heart of Swansea as well, which features them actively, such as the Crazy Baker, for instance, which has opened up in Nelson Street. Absolutely brilliant, you know, quirky, different and stuff like that. So we feature them individually, as well as shouting about what they've done here. So yeah, the list is there. I'm more than happy to share it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Right, Councillor Mary Jones.
Good morning, Russell. And funnily enough, the point you just made about the twilight, Councillor Jeff Jones and I were in Swansea yesterday, late afternoon actually, and we were surprised at the number of people that actually were about because it was a cold Monday. You know, it's not really the busiest shopping day of the week, I would have said. So, you know, there is call for things to go on after 4 o'clock even. But I'm sorry, I'm going to be a little bit negative now. What impact has the shop, you know, like Debenhams and the Selfridge, those type of shops, what impact did that have on the city centre retailing? Because I must admit, I've always championed the small shops, and obviously I think you have small business Saturday, first Saturday in December, something like that. So it's a very huge hole in the quadrant to fill, but also you've got the shop right opposite, which is also empty. And you know, I really welcome small businesses, but you can't put small businesses into that big empty building that's there. So I wonder what thoughts there are perhaps on you know, promoting that space. But also I noticed there are some empty shops on Oxford Street, and normally bids are very, very good and put things in the shop windows, but this didn't seem to have happened. So I don't know whether you haven't got round to it. Perhaps they closed recently, but they do have a very negative impact, and they're right opposite the entrance to our wonderful market. So hopefully you can answer my questions. Thank you. But I do promote the city centre, and I do get quite upset about the negativity.
Yeah, and you know, Debenhams it made a massive, it's massive building, it's a massive hole. You know, it's a department store. Interestingly enough, I think Marks and Spencer has certainly benefited from it, if you're looking for a positive. But you know, it'd be great to get another retailer or another business going into Debenhams, but it is a very big unit, as you rightly said, Councillor Jones. So, you know, fingers crossed, you know, that will be filled sooner than later, hopefully. But, you know, if, for instance, you might be aware that Next is actually given notice to leave the city centre. Now, instantly, Next, from my understanding, Next's business model is changing. They're actually working closer now with the likes of Dobby's garden centres, because they're selling more garden furniture or home furnitures, because they recently bought Laura Ashley as well. So we've got to adapt the business models as well, because there may be a unit that may be suitable for that if they wanted it as a place to collect more garden furnitures or plants or stuff like that. And of course, it's the link cell that comes with that as well, and for other businesses there. You know, we were a very early adopter in the city centre of click and collect, very early. We were actually the first place in the UK to put click and collect spaces in to a city centre. And that's they're currently behind M&S, and they're in the Undercoff by Debenhams as well. What was the other question? Sorry, Councillor Jones. Could you repeat that?
There's 3 shops on Oxford Street which are opposite. One was Hayes Travel, I know, which have relocated, and I don't know what the other 2 were, but it's the block there where Hayes Travel was, and as I said, they're right opposite. Really good, the entrance to the market, but good shops that are flourishing on the other side of the road. It's from Barclays Bank down to Samuel's. Then it's a little bit of a dead area, and usually you put things in the window, and I was really surprised they are boarded up, and I think the glass has been broken, and that unfortunately does look bad on the city centre. So I don't know if you've got plans to try and liven it up a bit until they're taken.
Well, we will. Previously, you're right, absolutely right. We have vinyl the windows to make it look like a business and actively encourage it, and that's done really well, because we put on the marketing incentives available and the agents board, whether it be grants through yourselves. And then our local media got hold of it, and we had an absolute kick-in for it, because we were saying we were making it look like shops, and it's been empty for X amount of years, and so we said, well, what's the point? To be honest with you, but we are looking at what else we can do from an enhancement program point of view to make it better. Actually, one of the units is currently being done out. You might have noticed they put a staircase back in, which is the old Burton's unit, through the window. So that's actively being done at the moment. The Hayes Travel one, I think
I didn't notice.
Development. But those
I didn't notice. The only one that's doing work is on the corner, the other corner, the Marks and Spencer's corner. It used to be Dulce's, and then it was a card shop for many years now. There's a lot of work going on there, but I don't agree with what was said then about the press, I think, or the media. I think that's really not very helpful. I think something like you had is far better than seeing boarded up broken glass.
Absolutely. And we have got schemes to look at it, but it's more of an enhancement program, such as this unit is available, this is the agent incentives, rather than looking at like a shop. And that's what I mean. So it is part of what we plan to do in once we get out to January and our restrictions are lifted a bit, if I'm honest, because as you can imagine, with the amount of hospitality business we've got in the bid area, we've been and supporting with the government grants and and the council's grants. We've been up to horizon it to make sure, as Councillor Downing said, that we get the information out to the businesses as the conduit to businesses for the local authority as well. But yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks. Councillor Wendy Fitzgerald again, please.
Yes, thank you. It was just a thought on the basis of information that has been provided. In northwest Swansea, I know a lot of people tend to go to Park Trostre when they want to go shopping, and I go there myself, obviously, but I also like going to Mumbles, and Mumbles seems to have a lot of attractions these days, especially since the new Marks and Spencer's food opened. And there is an added benefit because you can have an hour and a half free parking to do your shopping in Marks, which also enables you to run around and look at a few other shops. I just wondered if you in bids had noticed any impact of that food shop opening in Mumbles on the city centre, because I'm sure Marks in the city centre, just as in Park Trostre, the food element of Marks is quite a draw. So has there been any noticeable impact of the Marks food shop opening in Mumbles on the city centre, or is this not information that you'd be aware of?
Well, the Marks and Spencer's Swansea manager was part of the bid board until actually he was put down to Trostre. So in answer to your question, they were expecting an impact. They knew all that to start with. They knew the screw number. They knew how many products. They knew everything. So if you look at the different M&Ss, they have different product lines for the demographic of the shop there. So it's based on EPOS intelligence as well. So it's a collect. They know exactly what they're doing. I think Councillor Fitzgerald, I think in answer to the question, they were expecting an impact and they built that into their budgets and their operating costs as well. But the SA3 postcode was a big draw in for M&S Food, as would be the Trostre side of it from the Ponta de Lais food hall, which is, from my understanding, about maybe 6 months ago, wasn't performing as well because of the impact of the one in M&S, for instance. I'm sorry, Mumbles.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for that. Right, we come into the end of this now. Terry Hennigan again, please.
Yeah, only briefly. I listened to what Russell had to say. Very positive on most items, and yet I kept hearing the word negative and negativity coming up. Let's put a smile on people's faces and perhaps use the word positive a bit more often. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion and got their own views, but we are working as a group, and it would be nice to hear more of the positive side and the negativity. Thank you.
Right, thank you, Terry. Councillor Linda James.
Right, first of all, thank you, Chair, and apologies for it took me a while to get in this morning, some technical issues. I've just a quick question for Russell. From reading the document that I have here, there's a defined area of Swansea City that's covered by the bid. Could you explain what that is? A plan would have been nice, but if you could explain what area the bid actually covers, I'd be grateful.
So the area goes up to the Grand Hotel, takes in Park Towie, takes in that area down to Morgan's, Sainsbury's, the LC, the Arena, the Civic Centre, and also then cuts up past Tesco's. So it goes up past the Potter's Wheel, round the Gwalia building, Mansell Street, police station and background again. So it's quite a big area. You can probably walk it diagonally in. The last time I done it was 15 minutes, 32 seconds. But, you know, that was, that was you know, we rounded quite a lot. And in that area, I should say there's about 814 herindictments, we call them, as well.
So it doesn't include St Helens Road and that area? No. Okay,
so
thank you.
Where it goes round the roundabout. Yes.
Thank you.
But you're welcome.
Okay, thanks everybody, and thanks Russell. I just want to say really, my wife and I have had a little business in the past which he's never forgiven me for, and I can understand how difficult it is really to actually, you know, get a business actually running and the commitment and so on. I think people, you know, people are very fickle at the end of the day. You know, they want everything fine, and then again they're the ones that actually spend the money. And I think perhaps scrutiny is seen as negative, but then again, you know, the council have done all the heavy lifting with regards to actually taking this forward, and I think it's quite right that, you know, it's perhaps scrutiny is seen as sometimes negative, but really we need to question, you know, perhaps the easy bit that's actually been done. I don't mean to demean the, you know, the works that have actually been done on building, but it's really the outcomes of what we've done, and everybody wants it to be a success at the end of the day. So I just wanted to make a comment there. Anyway, thanks very much for that, Russell, and thanks for attending. You're quite welcome to actually stay, but I know you're a busy man, and you know, up to you at the end of the day. But then again, thanks very much.
No, I should leave you. Thank you very much for the opportunity. And if you've got any other questions or anything like that, please don't hesitate to you know, get back to me. And you know, and I just want to say, when Councillor Terry Hannigan said about, yeah, I agree with you. We can't be negative. But we have to be realists as well. We are absolutely, you know, we're always fighting. We're always fighting for our businesses in the city centre, and it's great to be working with yourselves and local authority as Team Swansea. I think that's the best way you can do it. And I think we should be very proud. People are very jealous, very close to us and other councils. The collaboration and partnership working we've got in Swansea, that doesn't happen very often as well. So it's just some general feedback for you as well. That collaboration and partnership, I think, is going to help us build back even stronger than where we were before, and due to the investments which are going in by the local authority as well.
Okay, yes, well, thanks for that, and I think we all hope that will happen as well. Okay, right, thanks very much. Right, if we move on to the next item then, which is going to be a verbal presentation by Jeff Bacon. Now we have submitted some questions to, you know, for Jeff to actually see before the meeting, but I'm sure some questions will actually come up. Jeff, I don't know how you're actually going to actually, you know, present this. I don't know if it's going to be site by site or whatever, but over to you.
Okay, thank you, Chair. It wasn't actually going to be to that level of detail, and this may be the first of a number of meetings, to be honest with you, because it's such a broad subject. One thing that, in discussion with Councillor Robert Francis Davis and Councillor David Hopkins, the point we really wanted to make, this is very much an emerging policy position. There is an existing Swansea-based strategy, but it's from February 2008, and at the request of the cabinet members, we've been asked to look at a revision of that Swansea-based strategy, and that's a document that's and a piece of work that's beginning to emerge. And it was really a bit of a view from Scrutiny in particular, I guess, in terms of whether this is probably more a policy development committee discussion or whether it's a Scrutiny discussion, because a lot of what we could talk about would be something that would be, as I say, an emerging policy statement. You raised a number of specific questions. A number were related directly, probably a lot more towards the Urban Splash Strategic Development Partnership. So that probably wouldn't be for me to comment on, and maybe something that's probably a bit too early at the stage in terms of commercial sensitivity to discuss, probably in an open scrutiny session. And I guess that will probably evolve over the next few months, and may even be part of a discussion, any sort of pre-decision scrutiny as well. And I wanted to set that stall out in terms of where we are at the moment, and I think I just wanted to sort of, I'm more than happy to have a wide discussion, but you may find I'm very guarded in some of my responses because quite often they may be an emerging position or a commercially sensitive position. So I'm not quite sure how much of a you'll get from my attendance today, to be honest with you. I'm not sure whether Councillor Rob Francis Davis or Councillor Hopkins wanted to add any more in terms of that, in terms of their view. But happy to try and respond as best I can in terms of specific sites. But I may be a little bit circumspect in some of my responses. Hopefully that sets the position out from as far as we're concerned.
Yeah. But Councillor David Hopkins, you want to say anything?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. It's just want to really reiterate what Jeff has said, particularly about our partnership arrangement, which is very early stages with Urban Splash, particularly on the Civic Centre site and the other sites. That is, as I say, a partnership that is just emerging. There's a lot of work to go forward. So, I'll be honest, I don't know what we can particularly answer any questions related to that particular site. But what I would say, as Jeff has said, going forward, there will be probably many opportunities to scrutinise perhaps some of the developments and look at that going forward. But I do agree, I think at this stage, it'd be rather difficult to answer, particularly any sensitive questions related to some of them sites. So sorry about
that. Okay, Councillor Robert Francis Davis, you want to add something?
Just to reiterate, basically what's been said by Jeff and by David is that things like Urban Splash, where it's emerging daily and parts of it, they are commercially sensitive. There are lots of ongoing talks between the local authority and Urban Splash in particular with other people interested in inward investment into Swansea. But it would be wrong to talk about those now in open. When those reports come, and then it is right then for scrutiny to look at it and scrutinise those as they come forward. But it is a lot of commercial sensitivity.
Yeah, Councillor Chris Hawley.
Right, thank you, Chair. Can I thank the Cabinet members and Mr. Bacon for what they just said. I think everybody understands there's a commercial sensitivity about quite a number of sites. One of the sites I obviously on the 2008 shoreline development plan, which was put together with the Welsh Government, there were a number of highlighted sites similar to the one that was opened opposite St Helens, which is like the secret bar now, which is called. Another one was to be built at the bottom of Sketty Lane, which unfortunately hasn't been done, but I'm assuming that probably will be one of the things that we look at in the future. One of the issues I think that of great interest to people was Black Pill, about how we've done some work there and there was plans to do other work there. I'm not sure if that's still on course. And the other thing is about Oystermill Square. Now I certainly don't want to go into the background of Oystermill Square to end, because that would probably be here all day and get nowhere on that. But one thing I would like to know is Oystermill Square considered to be part of the foreshore development, considering that we put in a new seawall there at some stage in the near future? Thank you.
As you know, Councillor Hawley, yes, we could talk about Oystermill Square. Probably, I think you and I have history of it going back over 30 years. And probably had many phone calls from individuals over those years. I think at one time some people were on the top of my friends and family list on my telephone, I think. But the planning permission had been granted on Oystermill Square. That is now lapsed. The ownership of it is up to them now to look at what they want to put in for, and then go and talk with pre-planning applications and bring forward their plans for it. At the moment, it's been very successful as a car park to service the Pierre Bistro and the other development that has happened in the Old Tivoli site, which has been very successful there for Mumbles. But as you know, the sea defence wall will be coming along, and we've been out to consultation over the last year, talking to people how they wish to see Mumbles. Most people don't want it spoiled. They want to see the retention of the trees there and the green there. But what we have learned in the last year is the success of pop-ups and catering, and people sitting and eating and outside on food and beverage in amongst the sea side of the development, and that will be taken into consideration how that the sea defence wall then goes forward and how it's developed.
Thank you.
Okay, Jeff Aiken.
Yeah, sorry, to build on Councillor Robert Francis Davis's sort of comments, so in particular around Black Pearl, it's an area that we've had clear political direction to look at that as part of a wider master plan for that specific area. Will form part of that emerging strategy, and some of the suggestions around sort of pop-ups and sort of temporary units will probably form part of that. One thing that's been evident over the last sort of 18 months, a couple of years, is the importance of the foreshore and the promenade, and trying to serve all the visitors and the potential for opportunity along that stretch, but recognise the fact that it is all very sensitive, and there is a lot of discussion to be had before we sort of take that to any sort of next stage. I'm sorry, I'm sounding incredibly vague about this, but you can see where we're coming from in terms of that strategy is so important, and it will require a lot of development with various stakeholders and partners.
Okay, thanks for that. I can understand, you know, the confidentiality and so on with regards to these issues, but I'm sure there's a lot of, you know, interest not only from councillors but from the public with regards to, you know, the future of these sites. Anyway, I've tried to be as, you know, as vague as possible. I must admit, I put in some of the questions on the civic centre and so on.
Sure.
But with regards to, you know, one of the questions I put in with regards to any interest shown, you know, how were the consultants actually marketing the sites? That can't be a confidential question. It must be, you know, an open question, you know, for you to advertise in the first instance. So how was it actually marketed?
In terms of which specific sites you're talking about, Chair? Sorry, because the only
civic centre there.
Oh, beg your pardon. I wasn't involved in that process. It wasn't part of my team, but clearly they said that was linked into the significant marketing exercise when it came to the strategic partner. I don't know whether perhaps the leader or Councillor Francis Davis may know more than I, but clearly there was a significant international marketing campaign as it related to that partnership. But it wasn't specifically just for that site on its own isolation. It involved a number of strategic sites.
Mm-hmm. Okay, would it be interesting really to have feedback with regards to how were all the sites actually marketed? As I said, it can't be confidential because it's been marketed. So
sure, I'll defer to others on that. Sorry,
actually on that, and also really with regards to the you know, any interest shown by outside parties. I don't expect anybody to actually come up with any information with regards to specific names and so on. But has there been any interest shown in any of the sites?
Sorry, I don't know whether you want to. I see a couple of people are showing the leader.
Jeff, do you want me to come in on that?
Yes, please. Yeah, thank you, Robert.
Chair, if I may, yeah, just to add to what Jeff and Councillor Francis Davis has said. Look, I think there are two stages to this. So, firstly, in terms of Urban Splash, obviously there was a competitive process undertaken in order to appoint them as the strategic partner, and they obviously then, under that strategic arrangement, have the ability to work with us to develop 7 key strategic sites around Swansea, totaling potentially £750 million worth of development potential there. Specifically on the civic site, St Thomas site, and phase 2 of Copper Bay, which are the 3 sites that they will probably move first on in terms of that strategic arrangement. Again, it's not a further marketing then of the civic site in the normal sense. So we wouldn't be going out to a partner to say, would you want to buy this site and develop it? It's working then with Urban Splash to work up a master plan and to look at what components are best suited to redeveloping the civic site itself. So we are in discussions at the moment with potential occupiers on that site. Some initial discussions are taking place there, as they are as well for Copper Bay Phase 2, and you'll know from previous discussions the intention is to bring a public sector hub as part of the redevelopment of Copper Bay Phase 2, but there will be other elements that will complement that. And again, as soon as we have the ability to share those initial plans with you, we will do so. But it's not, if you like, a formal second phase of marketing in the sense of looking for somebody to come in and develop the site. We already have that now with Urban Splash. It's about looking at who can bring the elements into those sites to complete the desired outcomes. So it'll be what that mix will be in terms of retail, leisure, housing, and other elements for those sites.
Okay, thanks very much for that. That is interesting. One of the questions I've actually put in as well with regards to sublet agreements. I know we've got the health board actually in the civic centre. I think the university, I'm not quite sure if they're still there, on the court service or whatever. Would those agreements, how long are they actually running for? And are there any shall we say a minus really to anything that Urban Splash actually comes up with? Are there any time constraints actually on us?
Sorry, I'll respond to that. Yeah, no, quite simply, the answer to that is no. There are no issues with regards to time constraints. When you have a look at the court service, for example, that was to enable facilitation of a Nightingale court, and that was a short-term agreement, and that's due to come to an end, I think, during the course of this year. All the other agreements were related to other public sector partner organisations on a term that would enable us to redevelop an alternative public sector hub development to enable them to relocate with us. So that was all perfectly planned on the basis that when we had to relocate out of the building, we could do so with them in a new city centre development. So no issues.
Okay, thanks for that.
Okay.
Well, if nobody's actually got any more questions, we'll just have to wait and see how things develop. If it needs a closed meeting further down the line, probably maybe before the local elections or just after, I'd welcome that. So, okay, if there's nothing else, thanks very much for attending, and we'll move on to the next item, which is the project update report. Slightly different to normal. It's only for information, which is I feel a little bit actually disappointed with this, but anybody that's actually, I'm sure you read the project update report. Any questions that we want to submit in the letter that we actually send to the cabinet members, can you send them pretty quickly to Emily? Because we're aware of PERDA at the end of the day, and we'd expect a reply from the cabinet member within a short time span. I think I'll agree with Emily really with regards to what sort of time limit we'll actually put on the response date. Okay. No, I know I can see David Hopkins is actually still here. With regards to the, I've got a regional scrutiny on the city deal actually this afternoon, and I must admit I picked up one of the bit of information. I can see the Hugh Mowbray's out now here. I can see the first act is actually somebody called Royal Blood. I never heard of them. I don't know if anybody else has. I don't know if they're a group or whatever. And I think it's on the 8th of March. So just a bit of information there. Anybody heard of Royal Blood at all? Or... Anyway, there we are. It'll be I don't know the leader. I can see is still here. I can see that actually on the regional scrutiny information. Rob, Royal Blood, is that correct, or who are they? And it is the 8th of March.
Sorry, Chair, but I've had a few connection problems. I've lost connection a couple of times. You couldn't repeat that one for me, please?
Yes, it was only really, I said I've got a regional scrutiny actually this afternoon, and I've actually seen some information, on minutes and so on. I just wanted to share really with the panel with regards to the arena. I could see somebody, I don't know if they're a group or a person or whatever they are, you know, Royal Blood, and they've actually got down with the 8th of March for the arena. I assume that's the first act or whatever that's actually going to take place. Is who are Royal Blood? I've asked the panel, yeah, nobody seems to know, so.
Yeah, Chair, probably not, with all due respect, probably not aimed at our demographic.
Right.
But they are a very successful rock duo. It's two individuals, Mike Kerr and Ben Thatcher. They've had some really big hits during the lockdown period and slightly before. They've got a major European tour which is planned, and they were very keen that Swansea was added to that tour once they knew the arena was available, and we've been able to secure them as the opening venue for their forthcoming European tour. So there are, I mean, if you go onto Amazon or Apple Music, you'll find lots of hits by Royal Blood there. It's sold out very, very quickly in terms of an event. And as I've been keen to say, whilst they are the first act to play there, because we wanted to try and accommodate their request to play the arena, obviously we are still working with Ambassador Theatre Group to fill out the rest of the programme, and we expect further big names to be added. And that'll be a mix of, if you like, acts from the 70s, 80s, 90s, noughties, and the current pop and rock scene, as well as other shows and exhibitions and conferences. So, yeah, I mean, they are going to be the first people to play there. And again, Chair, I'm more than happy to send you some links to their hits if you want to have a listen beforehand.
There we are. With thanks for that clarification, and I'm sure everybody else would welcome your clarification on who they were anyway. Okay, right, we move on to the next item. I can actually see the work programme, and funny enough, our next meeting is actually on the 8th of March, which is the same day as when the act is there. So I don't know if that was planned or whatever, but anyway, our next meeting is actually there. And the last item on the agenda are the letters, you know, for information. Okay, right, I'll bring the meeting to an end now. Thanks for attending, and I think it was quite a useful session, especially